We're going to try something new this year. We're going to try putting our DVD on YouTube. So the Bigwoods DVD is going to be released right here on YouTube. And we're still going to release a disc for those of you that want it. We're going to take a hit on this, revenue-wise, but I feel like we'll reach a bigger crowd, and I think it's important to reach as many people as we can. So I hope you enjoy this. We're going to put together, we got about, I'm thinking about 17, 18 chapters, something like that. And we'll do a chapter or two a week. I'm hoping to do 2 a week. 1 midweek, 1 on the weekend, and put the whole DVD up in chapters. I'm sure some of the chapters will be a little boring, some will be a little more exciting. But I hope you enjoy it. As always, leave your comments below. I read them all. Thank you. Enjoy. There's like a mystique about Bigwoods. It's like you don't really know what's out there, you know, or how big it is. There's the adventure of it, you know. We're going to, you know, a farm or something. It's like, or somebody's backyard. The deer hunt is. It isn't to the same degree. It tests you. You know, it's you against nature. I mean, you're going in there, and I literally myself like to go into Bigwoods alone. I like it to be me facing nature. I like to get in a tree where there ain't a human around and just get into the wilderness and hunt the way the Indians did, hunt the way our forefathers did. And to me, there's something great about that. There's just a mystique about it. There's something about it that makes you feel good. It doesn't have to be, for me, huge bucks.
Right.
If I'm hunting mature bucks, even if they, you know, the big woods, maybe where I'm hunting in Minnesota, they grow to 110 inches when they're 5 years old. I don't care. That ain't what it's about to me. It's about chasing that animal and hunting the biggest animal in that woods, and you know, trying to get it done on a spot where he could run 100 miles. Yeah. Not that he will, but go into a big woods like that and just read it. We're literally, when we get back home and we're hunting the farms and stuff, really they're kind of stuck between roads, and maybe they go on a neighbor's farm for a little while. It isn't the same as that big woods atmosphere. Two old warriors met in the swamp today. Only one's coming out alive. Time to call the pallbearers.
But there's some good trails coming through here. Some rubs. And I'm right next to bedding. So I'm hoping they're coming out of bedding tonight and onto the food, so I'm intercepting them between bedding and food. It's kind of early yet, but it's October 25th. Anything could be going right now.
There's like a mystique about Bigwoods. It's like you don't really know what's out there, you know, or how big it is. And there's the adventure of it, you know. We're going to, you know, a farm or something. It's like, or somebody's backyard. The deer hunt is. It isn't to the same degree. It tests you. You know, it's you against nature. I mean, you're going in there, and I literally myself like to go into Bigwoods alone. I like it to be me facing nature. I like to get in a tree where there ain't a human around and just get into the wilderness and hunt the way the Indians did, hunt the way our forefathers did. And to me, there's something great about that. There's just a mystique about it. There's something about it that makes you feel good. It doesn't have to be, for me, huge bucks.
Right.
If I'm hunting mature bucks, even if they, in the big woods, maybe where I'm hunting in Minnesota, they grow to 110 inches when they're 5 years old. I don't care. That ain't what it's about to me. It's about chasing that animal and hunting the biggest animal in that woods, and trying to get it done on a spot where he could run 100 miles.
Yeah.
Not that he will, but go into a big woods like that and just read it. We're literally, when we get back home and we're hunting the farms and stuff, really they're kind of stuck between roads, and maybe they go on a neighbor's farm for a little while. It isn't the same as that big woods atmosphere. That whole.
Yeah, I think it's being remote. It's being out in the wilderness. I mean, it is a throwback to what a lot of being a woodsman and hunting was about when we were kids. And not saying that it's changed for the worse or changed or whatever, but you just population concentrations where you have access to hunt. I mean, if we look here, we can hunt around here. You can't really go to a spot where you're not going to run across a house or transition into a subdivision, or a big expansion of woods might be 500 acres and that's it.
Some of my favorite hunts were going up to northern Minnesota, back in the wilderness, back in them swamps and stuff, really getting way back in there off those logging roads, pile driving my truck back in there. And you're in a place where really you can't hear a voice. You can't hear a dog barking. There ain't even a jet in the sky. You can't hear nothing but the wilderness. And to go out there and to hunt till dark, and to come out and the wolves are hauling around you, and there's bears walking around, and who knows what.
Sasquatch.
Yeah, Sasquatch. But that's just a different hunt. I mean, it really is, and it's getting into the primeval, what humans should be doing, or they.
Yeah, the hunter-gatherer mindset. I think, and that could be a draw for a lot of guys. I think guys, if they're looking for a little more adventure, they're looking for something different, and it's not specifically, like you said, just about killing a deer or getting the biggest deer. There is another aspect to it of hunting big woods.
Yeah, you just got to find a spot that everybody else isn't.
Right.
You got to go where nobody's going. And a lot of times that's the piece of the puzzle. I mean, people are vision oriented and they go to certain types of terrain. And you figure that out, and you figure out, well, what aren't they going to? And then find the terrain that you need within that area, and you're going to be on the bucks. Like most people think, when you look at an expansive woods, that the deer are out there in the middle somewhere. And they go wander through the woods looking for rubs, scrapes, or sign, where I'm focusing on edge. I'm focusing on breaks in that big woods. I'm focusing on openings. I'm focusing on rivers. I'm focusing on grassy areas, things that are different from the norm. And that's where your bucks are bedding. They're bedding all those edges and stuff, and that's where they're hanging, and that's where you're going to kill them. But most people haven't put that together yet.
Okay, so you're saying if I'm in a big wood scenario and maybe I've got a mature oak grove, or maybe it's maples, but as mature trees, relatively little undergrowth, when I get out of that section of big woods, I'm going to hit a transition at some point, and that transition is going to be grassland, or possibly it might be a pine grove or thicker undercover or smaller trees, or a clear cut that's overgrown. Right on the edge of those transitions is where you're going to find the most deer bedding and the most activity.
So you think about a big oak grove.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to attract people because people know that those bucks in big woods are looking for acorns.
Yeah.
They're going to go in there, they're going to see rubs and stuff, they're going to kind of follow the trail around, and they're going to set up, and they're not going to see anything. For two reasons. Number one, the middle of that oak woods is not where deer bed, and it's not where they live during daylight. It's where they feed at night.
Right.
Number two, if they are close enough to kill them, those bucks are bedded on the thick, on the edge of the open oak trees, watching you set up.
Yeah.
So the number one thing is, you got to know where they bed and why to even have a chance. And even then, once you know it, that almost makes it more difficult, because now you're like, well, geez, I can't go over there. The wind will get me. I can't go over here. The eyes will get me. But you can start to put two and two together and say, okay, I can use the roll of this hill because I think they could be bedding on this thick edge up here, and get under here and set up, and not set up so high because I'll get up over this hill. So you start having a plan that you can put together based on your knowledge. But it does get a little difficult when you start to understand how they bed, because they are set up to catch you.
Right. And I guess the other point to that is too, if you are using a topo map or you are using an aerial map and you want to scout a piece of property, you don't, and it's, let's say it's 500 acres, 1,000 acres of public bigwoods, you don't have to walk the entire thing with this transition concept. Because how do you approach it?
How I approach that big woods is I take that aerial and I cross out all those big woods. Don't care. Don't even want to look at it. I want to look at the edges. If there's an opening in there that's grassy, I want to see it. If there's a beaver pond in there, I want to see it. If there's a river going through there, I want to follow it. But I could care less about that 400 acres of trees. It's
Right.
all the same. You want that transition. You want that edge.
Now, is that always obvious on a map, on a topo map or an aerial?
It's not always obvious on aerial maps, but you can decipher some of that stuff. You can start to see the thicker pines if you know what you're looking for. You can see the big round tops of mature trees versus brushy trees, but it takes an eye, and it's not something I can really just point out to you and say, because of this.
Right.
But I can kind of do it. Sometimes I'm wrong, sometimes I'm right. I'm usually right. But it's because I've been in the woods, went back and looked at an aerial of it, and thought about those things. So if I've been in hardwoods that are mature, I go back and look at an aerial, and how can you tell? And a lot of times with the aerials, if you go back on the old Google Earth images, you go back in historical,
Right.
and you find a fall image where you can see the colors change, then you can really see the mature trees versus the immature trees.
Right. Or an evergreen variety versus a.
Right.
So I know you touched on this a little bit, but what is your main approach, or where to start? If I came to you and I slapped this map down in front of you and said, Dan, I want you to look at this 1,000-acre bigwoods area. How do you start keying in on where you'd want to go hunt?
Well, the first thing that I would say is that you have to pick an area. Don't go and try to scout 10,000 miles. Drive around or look at it and go, where do I start? Pick an area. Look at an aerial. Find something that's got some good terrain breaks, some features that you think would hold deer.
So terrain breaks might be changes in elevation, if you're seeing that on the
You could
topography
be
map.
looking for elevation changes. You could be looking for transitions, edges. You could be looking for beaver ponds, rivers, things like that. Something where it's got a lot of features.
Okay.
So it could hold a lot of deer. It has a lot of bedding features. And key in on that spot and learn that area. If you get that down pat, start expanding.
Okay.
But don't try to take on too much, or it'll just get confused and you have one little picture. Like, for instance, when I go into an area and I'm going to hunt it, I don't see the sign I want to see at a bedding area. I know about a bedding area over there. I'll go try that. Or if I kick a deer up and I spook him out of there, I got a good idea where he went. But if I got one spot in that area that I hunt, and one spot 20 miles down the road, I don't know where he went, right?
Right.
But if I learn that area, I know the bedding in that area, I can literally go after a buck once I know there's a good buck in there and hop from bedding area to bedding area to bedding area and hunt them down. A lot of people think those deer, those bucks, go for miles and miles and miles, but they don't. I'll find a buck in Bigwoods and come back the next year and he's still there. Same area, same beds, same spots.
Right.
They live in an area like we do. That'd be like saying humans could go anywhere. You might be in New Mexico. And you might.
Right.
But chances are you're going to be in the same house you were last year, right?
Right.
The biggest thing that's going to help you is not going to these areas blind. Not going out there and hunting and scouting at the same time. Not to say that's bad. I scout and hunt all the time myself.
Yeah.
But I like to take a walk around January, February, March, really learn that terrain, learn where those deer are, then come back in the fall. And then when you're coming up to something and you're like, well, I'm going to scout this because there might be a buck bedded up there. Well, I think you know how to go about it, because if you were paying attention when you're scouting, you're looking at the terrain. You're looking at how you got to come in there. You're looking at how, you know, how everything's going to lay out. And if you've scouted it enough that you know where those beds are, and you went to those beds, and you looked out over the woods from that thick transition, you said, wow, this is what he's looking at. Where can I get away with? And if you walked from that bed, you walked down that, where that deer's walking, and you went to where, as far as you could see from that bed, and that's where you set up, that's where you should be.
Yeah.
You know, so pre-scouting is important.
Yeah.
We're going down this trail. You know, look down and look what I find here. Right on this deer trail.
Decent one.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice one. Certainly be a good one this year. And this is a very heavy hunted area. This is Black River Falls, Wisconsin. Right in the middle of the state forest where everybody hunts. Nice. Still got all of its color, and it probably dropped late. Yeah, the hard part with it is, you know, I'll hear about some giant buck, or I'll run across one, like the bear bait buck.
Right.
I go out there, I find this buck, and he's too big to just let sit there, but I haven't pre-scouted that.
Right.
So then I got to fall back on my old scouting. I have to fall back on what I've learned from all those places I've walked. And I have to be able to look at a map, make a judgment, and go in and take my best shot at it. This video is brought to you by Huntin' Beast Gear. The gear for killers. Serial killers. Guys that go out on public land and get the job done. That hunt them down and kill them. Guys like you and me.